World War III, potential participating countries. Hypothetical analysis. Introduction. World War III, WW3, is a term used to describe a possible future global conflict involving many of the world's major powers. Unlike World Wars I and II, a third world war would likely involve advanced technology, cyber warfare, space systems, and possibly nuclear weapons. Any such war would almost certainly arise from escalating regional conflicts combined with global alliances. Major power blocks that could be involved: 1. United States of America. The United States would likely be a central participant in any global conflict due to its global military presence, leadership of NATO, defense commitments to allies in Europe and Asia. The U.S. has advanced nuclear, cyber, air, naval, and space capabilities. 2. NATO countries. NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, includes 30-plus countries. An attack on one member triggers collective defense. Key NATO members: United Kingdom, France, Germany, Canada, Italy, Poland, Turkey. NATO would likely act as a unified force. 3. Russia. Russia is often mentioned in WW3 discussions because of its nuclear arsenal conflicts involving Ukraine. Tensions with NATO. Russia has strong military capabilities and alliances with some non-Western states. 4. China. China could be involved due to tensions over Taiwan, disputes in the South China Sea, strategic rivalry with the United States. China has the world's largest military by personnel and advanced missile and cyber capabilities. Key regional players. 5. Iran. Iran could become involved through Middle East conflicts, opposition to Israel, and U.S. presence. Support for regional proxy groups. 6. North Korea. North Korea's involvement could stem from conflict with South Korea, missile and nuclear threats, alliance with China and Russia. 7. Israel may be involved due to ongoing regional conflicts, tensions with Iran and proxy groups, strong alliance with the U.S. 8. India could be drawn in due to border tensions with China, regional security issues, strategic partnerships with Western nations. India is a nuclear-armed country with a large military. 9. Pakistan. Pakistan's involvement would likely be tied to conflict with India, regional alliances. Pakistan also possesses nuclear weapons. Other countries that could be affected, depending on the scale of the conflict: Japan, South Korea, Australia, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, African and Southeast Asian nations. Some countries may remain neutral, while others may support one side politically, economically, or militarily. Nature of a modern world war. If WW3 occurred, it would likely include cyber warfare, attacks on power grids, banks, communication; space warfare, satellites disruption; economic warfare, sanctions, trade shutdowns; drone and AI-powered weapons, nuclear deterrence, used cautiously due to global destruction risk. Conclusion: World War III remains a hypothetical scenario, not an ongoing reality. Global leaders and international organizations continue to work toward diplomacy because a world war would cause unprecedented destruction. Understanding potential participants helps highlight the importance of peace, cooperation, and conflict prevention. World War III, Global Impact and Consequences, Part 2. Economic impact of World War III. A global war would severely damage the world economy. International trade routes would be disrupted, leading to shortages of food, fuel, and essential goods. Stock markets could collapse, currencies might lose value, and unemployment would rise worldwide. Developing countries would suffer the most due to limited resources and heavy dependence on imports. Inflation would increase sharply, and many nations could face economic depression. Global institutions like the World Bank and IMF would struggle to manage the crisis. Humanitarian consequences. The humanitarian cost of World War III would be catastrophic. Millions of civilians could be killed or injured. Large-scale displacement and refugee crises. Destruction of cities, hospitals, and schools. Severe food and water shortages. If nuclear weapons were used, radiation would cause long-term health problems, including cancer and genetic damage. Environmental destruction could make large areas uninhabitable for decades. Environmental damage. Modern warfare would heavily impact the environment. Nuclear explosions could lead to nuclear winter, air, water, and soil pollution. Destruction of forests and wildlife. Climate disruption affecting agriculture. These effects would threaten global survival, not just the countries involved in the war. Role of technology in World War III. World War III would be very different from previous wars due to advanced technology. Cyber attacks on power grids and communication systems, artificial intelligence AI-controlled weapons, drone warfare, space warfare, involving satellites. Technology would increase the speed and scale of destruction, making the war more dangerous and unpredictable. Efforts to prevent World War III. To prevent such a devastating conflict, nations rely on diplomacy and dialogue. International organizations like the United Nations Arms, control treaties, economic cooperation, conflict resolution through peaceful means, public awareness, global cooperation, and responsible leadership are essential to maintaining peace. Conclusion. World War III remains a theoretical possibility, but its consequences would be far worse than any previous war. The potential destruction highlights the urgent need for peace, diplomacy, and international cooperation. Humanity's future depends on avoiding such a conflict. World War III. Role of international organizations and lessons for the future. Part 3. Role of the United Nations, UN. The United Nations would play a critical role in preventing and managing World War III. Its main responsibilities would include promoting peace through diplomacy, organizing emergency meetings of the Security Council, sending peacekeeping missions to conflict zones, providing humanitarian aid to affected populations. However, the UN's effectiveness could be limited if major powers disagree, especially when veto power is used by permanent Security Council members. Role of alliances and treaties. Military alliances and international treaties aim to prevent large-scale wars. NATO focuses on collective defense. Arms control treaties limit nuclear and chemical weapons. Trade agreements reduce conflict by increasing cooperation. If alliances fail to manage tensions responsibly, they can also widen conflicts by pulling more countries into war. Media and information warfare. In World War III, information would be a powerful weapon. Propaganda and misinformation could influence public opinion. Cyber warfare could target media and social networks. Psychological warfare could weaken morale. Controlling false information and ensuring truthful reporting would be vital to avoid panic and escalation. Lessons from previous world wars. History teaches important lessons. Nationalism and unchecked power can lead to disaster. Diplomatic failure often precedes war. Civilian populations suffer the most. Peace treaties and cooperation are essential after conflicts. World Wars I and II showed that wars may end militarily, but their effects last for generations. Importance of global cooperation. To avoid World War III, countries must work together by resolving conflicts through peaceful negotiation, respecting international law, addressing global problems like climate change and poverty, building trust through cultural and economic exchange. Peace is not just the responsibility of governments, but also of citizens worldwide. Final thoughts. World War III would threaten the survival of humanity. While global tensions exist, nations continue to seek peaceful solutions because the cost of war is too high. Learning from history and strengthening international cooperation remain the best ways to ensure a safer future. World War III. Possible future scenarios and prevention strategies. Part 4. Possible triggers of World War III. A third world war would not begin suddenly, but could result from the escalation of smaller conflicts. Possible triggers include a major military clash between nuclear-armed countries, expansion of regional wars involving global alliances, accidental or miscalculated use of nuclear weapons, severe cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, competition over resources such as energy, water, or territory. Even a local conflict can grow into a global war if diplomacy fails. Role of nuclear weapons and deterrence. Nuclear weapons play a central role in modern global security. Many countries follow the policy of nuclear deterrence, which means nuclear weapons are kept to prevent attacks, not to start wars. Fear of mutual destruction discourages direct conflict. However, the existence of these weapons also increases the risk of accidental or unauthorized use, which could have devastating global consequences. Impact on future generations. The effects of World War III would not be limited to the time of the war. Long-term health problems due to radiation and pollution, loss of education opportunities for millions of children, psychological trauma across generations, slower scientific, cultural, and economic development. Future generations would inherit a damaged world with fewer resources and greater challenges. Importance of peace education. Peace education plays a vital role in preventing global conflict, teaching tolerance, cooperation, and respect, promoting dialogue instead of violence, encouraging global citizenship, raising awareness about the cost of war. Educated and informed societies are more likely to demand peaceful solutions from their leaders. Responsibility of world leaders. World leaders have a special responsibility to act with caution and restraint, prioritize diplomacy over military action, respect international agreements, work together to solve global problems. World War III, Ethical Concerns, Civilian Role, and Hope for Peace. Part 5. Ethical and Moral Concerns. World War III would raise serious ethical and moral questions. The use of nuclear, biological, or chemical weapons would violate basic humanitarian values. Such weapons do not distinguish between soldiers and civilians, causing immense suffering to innocent people. The moral responsibility of scientists, military leaders, and politicians would be questioned if destructive technologies were used without regard for human life. International humanitarian laws exist to protect civilians, but in a global war, enforcing these laws would be extremely difficult. Role of civilians in a global conflict. Civilians would not only be victims, but also participants in indirect ways. Civil defense and emergency response, supporting humanitarian efforts, resisting misinformation and propaganda, promoting peace through social movements. Public opinion can influence governments. When citizens demand peace and accountability, leaders are more likely to choose diplomatic solutions. Refugee and migration crisis. World War III would likely create the largest refugee crisis in history. Millions forced to flee their homes. Neighboring countries overwhelmed by refugees increased pressure on food, housing, and healthcare systems. Social and political instability in host countries. Managing such a crisis would require unprecedented international cooperation. Cultural and social impact. War does not only destroy lives and economies, it also damages culture and society. Loss of historical monuments and cultural heritage, breakdown of social trust, rise in fear, hatred, and division, decline in education, arts, and creativity. These cultural losses would weaken humanity's shared identity. Hope for peace and global stability. Despite global tensions, there are strong reasons for hope. Increased global communication and awareness, international cooperation on global challenges, strong peace movements and civil society organizations. Lessons learned from past wars. History shows that dialogue and cooperation can overcome conflict when nations choose peace over power. Final conclusion of the article. World War III would be the most destructive conflict in human history. While discussions about it are based on possibilities, not facts, they remind us of the importance of peace, diplomacy, and global unity. Preventing such a war is a shared responsibility of governments, institutions, and individuals. Humanity's survival depends on choosing cooperation instead of conflict. World War III, Future Outlook, Global Responsibility, and Final Recommendations. Part 6. Future Outlook of Global Security. The future of global security depends largely on how nations manage current tensions. While military strength remains important, modern security increasingly relies on diplomacy and conflict prevention, economic interdependence, international cooperation on global issues, trust-building measures between rival states. If countries focus only on military power, the risk of large-scale war increases. A balanced approach is essential for long-term peace. Role of science and technology in peace. Science. And technology can be used not only for war, but also for peace. Early warning systems can prevent accidental attacks. Technology can improve disaster response and humanitarian aid. Digital platforms can promote dialogue between nations. Scientific cooperation can build trust across borders. Responsible use of technology can reduce the chances of global conflict. Importance of youth and education. Young people play a crucial role in shaping the future. Educated youth can challenge extremist ideas. Students can promote peace through awareness campaigns. Future leaders are shaped by today's values and education. Teaching history, ethics, and global citizenship helps prevent repetition of past mistakes. Global responsibility and shared humanity. World War III would affect every nation, directly or indirectly. Therefore, peace is a shared global responsibility. No country can remain completely isolated. Humanity must be valued above political or national interests. Recognizing our shared humanity is key to avoiding global disaster. Final recommendations. To prevent World War III, the world should strengthen international institutions, reduce nuclear arsenals, gradually promote dialogue instead of confrontation, invest in education, health, and development, encourage cooperation over competition. These steps can help build a safer and more peaceful world. World War III. Myths, public fears, and the importance of awareness. Part 7. Common myths about World War III. There are many misunderstandings about World War III. Some common myths include: Myth 1. World War III will start suddenly in one day. In reality, a world war would likely develop slowly through rising tensions, regional conflicts, and diplomatic failures. Myth 2. Only powerful countries would suffer. A global war would affect every country, including small and neutral nations, through economic collapse, climate effects, and humanitarian crises. Myth 3. Nuclear war means instant human extinction. While nuclear war would be devastating, scientists believe humanity would survive, though with extreme suffering and long-term global damage. Public fear and psychological impact. Fear of World War III already affects people worldwide. Anxiety caused by news and social media, fear of nuclear weapons and global instability, loss of trust in international politics. Managing fear through accurate information and education is important. Panic and misinformation can worsen global tensions. Importance of responsible media plays a powerful role in shaping public opinion. Responsible journalism promotes understanding and peace. Sensational reporting can increase fear and hatred. Accurate information helps prevent misinformation and rumors. A well-informed public is less likely to support violence and war. Role of international law. International law aims to limit the damage of war. Geneva Conventions protect civilians and prisoners. Laws against chemical and biological weapons, rules governing treatment of refugees. Strengthening and respecting international law can reduce the horrors of war. Message to humanity. The idea of World War III serves as a warning rather than a prediction. It reminds humanity that war solves no long-term problems. Dialogue is stronger than weapons. Unity is more powerful than division. Every generation has a responsibility to protect peace for the next. Closing reflection. World War III is not inevitable. History shows that even during times of extreme tension, wise leadership, public awareness, and global cooperation can prevent catastrophe. The future of the world depends on choices made today. Choices between conflict and cooperation, destruction and peace. World War III. Lessons for humanity and vision for a peaceful future. Part 8. Global unity as a solution. The threat of World War III highlights that no nation can survive alone in a globalized world. True security comes not from weapons but from cooperation. Nations must work together to share resources fairly, solve conflicts through dialogue, respond jointly to global crises like climate change, pandemics, and economic instability. Unity, understanding, and shared goals are stronger than divisions. Personal responsibility of citizens. Every individual can contribute to peace by promoting tolerance and empathy, opposing violence and extremism, educating themselves and others about global issues, supporting leaders and policies that favor diplomacy over aggression. Small actions collectively create a culture of peace, preparing for a safer future. Even while hoping to avoid war, preparation is necessary. Emergency planning and disaster management, international cooperation in humanitarian aid, cybersecurity and protection of critical infrastructure. Preparedness does not mean war. It means ensuring that humanity can survive crises without large-scale conflict. Vision for a peaceful world. Imagine a world where conflicts are resolved in courts and councils, not on battlefields. Technology serves health, education, and the environment, not destruction. Future generations grow up free from fear of global war. This vision is achievable if nations and individuals prioritize peace, diplomacy, and justice over hatred and competition. Final thoughts. World War III is not inevitable. History, science, and diplomacy give us tools to prevent global catastrophe. By learning from the past, acting responsibly in the present, and thinking about future generations, humanity can build a safer, cooperative, and thriving world. The lesson is clear. Peace is not just an ideal, it is a responsibility we all share. World War III, Final Conclusion and Call to Action. Part 9. Ultimate Conclusion. World War III, though hypothetical, represents the greatest potential threat to human civilization. The participation of major powers, regional conflicts, and the use of advanced technologies could lead to catastrophic consequences. From economic collapse and environmental destruction to massive loss of life and cultural devastation, the impacts would be felt globally. However, the possibility of such a war also serves as a wake-up call for humanity. It reminds nations and individuals that the future depends on responsible choices, diplomacy, and global cooperation. Call to action. Preventing World War III requires efforts on multiple levels. Governments and leaders resolve disputes peacefully, follow international law, engage in dialogue and build trust with other nations. International organizations strengthen the United Nations, NATO, and other alliances, monitor nuclear weapons and promote arms reduction, coordinate humanitarian and disaster relief efforts. Civil society and citizens promote education and awareness about peace and global issues, oppose extremism and misinformation, advocate for policies that favor cooperation over conflict. World War III, Analytical Perspective and Final Academic Summary. Part 10. World War III as a warning, not a prediction. The discussion of World War III should be understood as a warning scenario, not a forecast. Political tensions, military buildups, and technological competition highlight weaknesses in the global system. Talking about World War III helps scholars, policymakers, and citizens recognize risks early and work to prevent them. History shows that wars often occur when warnings are ignored. Therefore, studying the idea of World War III is an exercise in prevention, not fear, balance of power, and global stability. One major factor in preventing World War III is the balance of power. When power is balanced, nations hesitate to start wars. When imbalance grows, conflict risks increase. Strong diplomacy helps maintain stability. Global stability depends on mutual respect, dialogue, and understanding between powerful nations. Economic cooperation as a peace tool. Economic cooperation reduces the chances of war. Countries connected through trade avoid conflict. Shared economic interests promote peace. Sanctions should be used carefully to avoid escalation. A strong global economy encourages collaboration rather than confrontation. Importance of dialogue over force. Military force may bring short-term control, but dialogue brings long-term peace. Negotiations, peace talks, and confidence-building measures reduce misunderstandings and prevent accidental wars. Communication between rival nations is essential, especially in times of crisis. Academic summary. In summary, World War III would involve major global powers and alliances. Its consequences would be catastrophic for humanity, and the planet modern warfare would include nuclear, cyber, and space dimensions. Prevention depends on diplomacy, education, cooperation, and responsible leadership. The topic of World War III emphasizes the urgent need for global unity and peaceful problem-solving. Absolute final message. Human civilization has reached a point where another world war could end decades of progress. The future must be shaped by wisdom, cooperation, and peace rather than violence and destruction. Avoiding World War III is not only a political goal, it is a moral duty of humanity. World War III, Human Survival, Wisdom, and the Road Ahead, Part 11. Human survival in the modern age. In the modern world, the survival of humanity depends not on military strength, but on wisdom and restraint. With nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence, and cyber technology, humanity has reached a stage where war could cause irreversible damage. World War III would not only threaten nations, but could endanger human civilization itself. Survival now requires cooperation rather than confrontation. The role of wisdom and leadership. Leadership in the 21st century must be guided by wisdom, not aggression. Wise leaders prioritize peace over pride. They understand long-term consequences. They value human life above political gain. History remembers leaders who protected humanity, not those who destroyed it. The road ahead for the world. The future path of the world can move in two directions: conflict and destruction, driven by hatred and power struggles; peace and progress, driven by cooperation and understanding. The choice lies with governments, institutions, and people alike. Message to future generations. Future generations should inherit a peaceful planet, strong international cooperation, a world where war is avoided, not celebrated. Education, awareness, and moral responsibility will help ensure a safer future. Final closing statement. World War III must remain a topic of study, not experience. Discussing it reminds humanity of the cost of war and the value of peace. By choosing dialogue, justice, and unity, the world can move forward without repeating the tragic mistakes of history. World War III, Ethics of War, Global Justice, and Humanity's Choice, Part 12. Ethics of War in the Modern World. In today's age, the ethics of war are more important than ever. With weapons capable of mass destruction, the traditional idea of just war is increasingly questioned. World War III would challenge moral principles such as protection of innocent civilians, proportional use of force, respect for human rights. Modern warfare makes it nearly impossible to limit suffering, raising serious ethical concerns about whether such a war could ever be justified. Global justice and inequality. One major issue connected to global conflict is inequality. Poor nations suffer more despite having less responsibility. Powerful countries control decision-making, resources and security are unevenly distributed. World peace cannot exist without global justice. Reducing inequality, poverty, and exploitation lowers the risk of large-scale conflicts. War versus human values. World War III would stand in direct opposition to core human values: peace, compassion, cooperation, respect for life. Choosing war means rejecting these values. Choosing peace means protecting humanity's shared future. Humanity's ultimate choice. Humanity now stands at a historic crossroads. One path leads to violence, destruction, and regret. The other leads to dialogue, development, and dignity. This choice is not only for governments, but for every individual through education, awareness, and moral action. Concluding thought. The idea of World War III should motivate the world to strengthen peace, not prepare for destruction. Human progress has meaning only if it protects life and dignity. Preventing another world war is not just a political responsibility, it is a human responsibility. World War III and the survival of civilization. World War III would not be just another conflict in history. It could mark a turning point for human civilization. Unlike earlier wars, modern warfare has the power to destroy not only armies, but entire societies, ecosystems, in future generations. The survival of civilization would depend on how wisely nations act in times of tension. Civilization progresses through peace, cooperation, and shared knowledge. War reverses this progress, Responsibility of powerful nations countries with greater power carry greater responsibility. To avoid misuse of military strength, to lead peace initiatives, to support weaker nations during crises. If powerful nations act irresponsibly, global instability increases. Responsible leadership is essential to prevent worldwide disaster. Learning from history to protect the future. History clearly shows that wars begin with misunderstandings and arrogance. Violence creates long-lasting suffering. Peaceful solutions are always less costly than war. World War I and II taught humanity painful lessons. Forgetting these lessons increases the risk of repeating history. Hope through cooperation. Despite challenges, there is hope. International cooperation continues to grow. Peace treaties and global institutions still exist. Education and awareness are spreading worldwide. Hope lies in humanity's ability to learn, adapt, and choose peace over destruction. Final academic statement. World War III remains a theoretical possibility, not a certainty. Its discussion serves as a reminder of the dangers of conflict and the importance of diplomacy, ethics, and global cooperation. Preventing such a war is a shared duty of nations, institutions, and individuals alike. Ultimate message. The future of humanity must be built on wisdom, unity, and peace, not fear and force. If the world chooses understanding over hostility, World War III will remain only a topic in books, not a chapter in human history. World War III, Peace as the Ultimate Human Achievement, Part 14. Peace as progress. True progress in the modern world is not measured by weapons or military power, but by the ability of nations to maintain peace. Avoiding World War III would be one of the greatest achievements in human history. Peace allows scientific and technological growth, better healthcare and education, economic development, cultural exchange between nations. War destroys progress, peace protects it. The role of dialogue and understanding. Many global conflicts arise from misunderstanding, fear, and lack of communication. Continuous dialogue between nations helps reduce mistrust, prevent escalation of disputes, solve problems peacefully. Open communication is one of the strongest tools to prevent a global war. Moral lesson for humanity. The idea of World War III teaches a powerful moral lesson. Violence creates suffering. Cooperation creates solutions. Peace ensures survival. Humanity must learn that unity is stronger than division. Final, simple thought. World War III must never happen. The world has enough knowledge, experience, and resources to choose peace over conflict. If nations act responsibly and people promote harmony, the future can be safe and hopeful. Need for reform in global institutions. To prevent a future world war, global institutions must evolve. The United Nations needs stronger conflict resolution powers. International laws must be enforced fairly for all countries. Peacekeeping missions should be better funded and supported. Reforming global systems can help resolve disputes before they turn into wars. Arms control and disarmament. Reducing weapons is essential for global safety. Limiting nuclear and advanced weapons, increasing transparency between nations, promoting disarmament agreements. Fewer weapons mean fewer chances of large-scale destruction. Cooperation over competition. The modern world faces shared challenges. Climate change, pandemics, poverty, and inequality. These problems require cooperation, not conflict. Working together builds trust and reduces the risk of war. A peaceful legacy for humanity. Preventing World War III would be humanity's greatest legacy. Future generations deserve a world shaped by wisdom, justice, and peace, not fear and destruction. Closing line. World War III should remain a lesson, not a reality. By reforming global systems, choosing cooperation, and valuing who,